Welcome to online classes. Myself Ashwini, lecturer in statistics from Gopalswamy PU College. And today's topic is second chapter, that is index number. Usually everyone has the habit of reading a newspaper. In that newspaper there is a particular column about economy. In economy also, particularly we will see about the import-export, industries, business and stocks, shares, our likelihood consuming products, commodities like cereals, milk products and cosmetics, etc. We will discuss about these things, whether it is the price, quantity and the value of these things are going high and high in these days. We will discuss these things in our day-to-day life situations, and these things can be predicted using this index number. So in fact, the uses or description of index number is it is an economic barometer. And why we call it as an economic barometer? Because a barometer measures the atmospheric pressure, whereas this index number describes or estimate the pressure in economy of the country in India. In index number, usually we will see the fluctuations in the economy. That's why it is called as economic barometer. And this economic barometer can be predicted using the base year, that is past year's data, and we can predict this for the future. And this base year we call it as, or we denoted as base year P0. Base year will be P0 for price, and current year for price it is P1. For base year we consider it as a P0 and in prices, and for current year it is P1. Similarly, for this is for price, and for quantity also this will be Q0, and for current year it will be Q1. Next thing is, why do we use index number in economy? Because it is a statistical device to measure the relative changes in the level of variables. Variables means we can consider only one variable, or it can be a group of variables. Group of variables means it is, for example, our family budget. In that budget we are having so many things, that is our food, clothing, education, rent, current bill and etc. So this is a group of variables. That also we will consider in the index numbers with respect to the time, geographical locations or other characteristics like income, profession, etc. Here in index number, the time and geographical location is very important, because depending on the geography or a area where we survive is different from one place to another. That's why that index number will varies from place to place and person to person. In index number majorly we have two boards, that is simple and composite. Simple means here we will consider only one component or a one variable. Composite means we will consider more than one variable or more than two variables. In index numbers we have a certain relatives, price relatives, quantity relatives and a value relative. The price relative defined as the price in the current year expressed as percentage of the price in the base year, and this price relative is denoted as price relative can be written in the form of capital P01 is current year divided by base year into 100. Here in index number we will take only the percentage to compare for last year and the next year or the present year. Here current year means it will be price of current year and base year is last year's, or which year we are consider it as a base, or for our next prediction, that year we call it as base year. And similarly for quantity relative, it is Q01, it is Q1 by Q0 into 100. Again, this also expressed in percentage. Similarly, for value relative is V01, that is, it is a ratio of V1 by V0 into 100, but here V1 is nothing but P1 into Q1 and V0 is P0 into Q0 into 100. Always value is equal to price into quantity. That's why this value can be expressed as a percentage with current year and base year. And next thing is characteristics of an index number. Index number are special types of averages. It is a specialized types of averages. In this index number, we will use two averages. We know we have many averages: AM, GM, HM, mode, median, weighted arithmetic mean. These are the averages. But in our index number, we will use only arithmetic mean and the geometric mean as the averages. Index number expressed in ratio, but for comparison purpose they are expressed as percentages. As I told, we will express the index number in percentage. For example, if the index is 120 for base year and if it is 90 for current year, then by comparing these two, for 100, because we will express this in the percentage, current year price is decreased because it is 90, so it is decreased compared to base year, because base year is increasing, it's showing 120. So for this purpose, for comparison purpose, we will take index number as a percentage. Index number studies the effect of factors that can be measured, cannot be measured directly. For example, for our budget will include our food, clothing, education, rent, miscellaneous. It will be differ from person to a person. So the effect of those things or a commodities we cannot be measured for a person to a person. So, and the last characteristics is it facilitates comparisons. Yes, as we told, it is very useful in comparing the base year and a current year. Next part is uses of index number. Index number simplifies the data that facilitate comparative study. As we told that the characteristics is nothing but uses, and it will always helps to compare for last year index to a next year index. And second point will be index numbers are used in studying trends and tendencies. Yes, trends means the trend will be differ from day to day lives. Today's trend we cannot follow next day, and our old trends we cannot follow. And in economy, especially in economy, the trend and tendencies will be changing by minute to minute and seconds to seconds. So it will very useful in economy to find the changes in the trend and tendencies. Index numbers helps in measuring purchasing power of a money and used for deflation. Yes, deflation is nothing but depressions in the economy. We can see that deflation in using this index number. Index numbers measures changes in cost of living different groups of people. Yes, the group of peoples will be different for different areas and their surviving style will be different, so that cost of living will be different. That can be measured, and we can compare to person using this index number. Index numbers are used by the government to frame suitable policies regarding fixation of salaries, bank rates, allowance of government employees, license for new firms, our import exports, and tax. And the tax what we are paying every year, that is also can be calculated using this index number. Next thing is limitations of index number. Limitations is nothing but demerits or disadvantages of index number. Since index numbers are based on sample data, they are only approximate indicators. Yes, here in index number we will take only the sample, we will not consider the population. So it can give only approximate values, not the exact values, so that it is a major drawback or a limitation or a demerit in the index number. There is a likelihood of error being introduced at each stage of the construction of index number. Yes, by likelihood errors means unknowingly we will do the errors. That errors cannot be predicted in index numbers. While constructing index number, the quality of the product is not taken into consideration. Yes, in index number we will not consider the quality, we will consider only the quantity, because price, quantity and the values, these three are the major concepts in index numbers. Other statistical techniques, index numbers can be misused to get desired conclusion. Yes, whatever we want to conclude, we can take suitable formula, because we are having so many formulas and formulas give many answers, so that which one we can convince to others, that formula we can take and we can conclude that to our up to our knowledge, and this is a misuse. This can be misused in index number. As customs, traditions and habits of people varies from time to time, it is difficult to assign proper weights to the various items, because as we told that the cost of living index number will be different for different peoples and different areas. So that because every individual is having their own customs and traditions and they are having their own habits, so that the index number will varies from people to people and area to area. And here we have three types of index numbers, that is price index number, quantity index number and a value index number. Based on these three concepts, we are going to solve the problems in our next classes. Okay, and next thing is steps in construction of index number. Steps in constructions of index number. We should remember few points in construction of index numbers, and the first thing is purpose, defining the purpose of the index number. In index number, clearly we have to define the why we are taking the index number to calculate. Purpose for which the index number is required. Why do we need this? That we have to define first, so that we can get the appropriate number of samples, and it will useful to predict clear picture of the indicators. And second thing is selection of base year, because selection of base year is very important, because base year should be always economically stable. We cannot take 20 years, 30 years data at present data, or it should be within 5 years, 10 years, then we can predict the future values. So that selection of base year should be economically stable one, and the base year should not be too distant from the current year. That is, if you are taking data of 2019, we should take the data of 2015, 16 around like that. It should not be 1990s, 1980s data. So the current year situation should be similar to at least for 2 to 3 years. Then only we can consider it as a current year and a base year. And depending on the situation, the base period is fixed based on chain system. It should be in chain system, because it should have a common gap between year to year, so that we can find the exact indicators using index numbers. And next is selection of commodities. Selection of commodities depends on the purpose of the survey, because because real habits, states and custom of people will be different for different groups or different categories, so that the selection of commodities is very important to take the sample number. Next, obtaining the price quotations. Commodities, after the commodities, this price quotation is very important, because the price of many commodities or varies from place to place, shop to shop in the market, so that price quotation are to be obtained from different places, different agencies at regular interval of time. Then average can be constructed of the construction of the index number can be easy, so that we can give a correct price quotations. Next thing is choice of an average. Usually in index number we will use only two averages, that is arithmetic mean and a geometric mean. We will use arithmetic mean because it is very simple, everyone can calculate this, so that we will use that. And for geometric mean, it is a best averages or a best averages for averaging the ratio of the relative changes, because in index numbers relative changes are very important. As we told it, it can be related to a price, it can be related to quantity, or it can be related to value. Once price and quantity relatives will be changing, then value relative will also changes, so that here AM and GM, instead of AM if we use GM, it is very useful to predict the indicators. And the next thing will be selection of weights. Weights are the quantities of base year or a current year, or it can be a combination of both of them. Here there are any weights we can use. And selection of suitable formula, because different formulas give different answers. In index number we have so many formulas, so for our purpose what we are doing, or for which purpose we are constructing index number, regarding that we should select the formulas. And next is methods of constructions of index number. In index number we have two methods, that is unweighted and weighted. In unweighted index number we have two methods, that is simple aggregative method and simple average of relatives. And again for weighted also, simple weighted simple aggregative and weighted simple weighted simple average of relatives. In both weighted and unweighted we have the same methods, but in unweighted we will not consider the weight of the quantity. In weighted method we will consider the weight of the quantity, and here both AM and GM, arithmetic mean and geometric mean, both the method we will follow in these two concepts. And in this chapter again we are having tests, that is tests for adequacy, that means adequacy of an index number, because tests are very important. Why means we are having so many formulas and different formulas give different answers, so that we will get confused for which index number we have to consider. For the betterment of the index number we have certain tests. In this chapter we are having four tests, that is one is unit test, factor reversal test, time reversal test, circular test. These are the four important tests. These tests we will discuss in next classes using the problems. And the last concept in this chapter is consumer price index number. Consumer price index number is nothing but cost of living index number, that is cost, our earning and our expenditure, our family budget. These are the living index for a person, because the price of each and every commodities are different from place to place and shop to shop, so that the commodities, consumption of the commodities will be different and it will varies to a person or a family to a family. So definition of index number says that, definition of consumer price index number says that it is a basket of goods and services. Basket of goods and services means goods and service needed in day-to-day life for the specified class of consumers. Basket of goods will be differ to consumptions of the person in day-to-day their lives. In consumer price index number also we have certain steps to follow to for the construction of a index number. Defining the purpose and scope, because in purpose of the index number should be clearly defined, so that we can clearly find the class of people to whom we are including in cost of living index numbers, and it is always depend on a geographical area or a location. And second thing is conducting family budget enquiries and selection of the weights, and the objectives of enquiries to be find out the expenditure of a family spends on different items of consumptions. Here items can be items of consumption of a family, it can be food, rent, clothing, fuel, lighting, house rent, education and etc. Your enquiry should be in a random basis, and so that we can give a clear picture about a family budget. And the third thing is obtaining price quotations. As we discussed in construction of price index number, here also price quotation is very important, because price will be different for shop to shop and area to area. And the last thing is computing the index number. For computing the index number, we have two methods, that is aggregative expenditure method and a family budget method. In aggregative expenditure method, here the base year is always having quantities, only the quantities and without weights. Whereas in family budget we will take the quantities with weights. This is the difference between a aggregative expenditure and a family budget. In aggregative expenditure method we will consider only the quantities, whereas in family budget method we will consider weight of quantities. Both we should consider in this. And if we calculate aggregative expenditure and a family budget method, even though we are getting the same index, but it will be depend on the weights, it will be varies from person to a person and area to area. Thank you.